eventually he started with a backpack roaming the hills of North Alabama, or Walker County primarily, with his pack. It was said that he had a pack on his back and in front that equaled around 200 pounds. He was a big man and very strong in those years. Um, Eventually, he went the route of getting a horse and buggy, and quite late, finally got a car. He was never able to drive, but all of us were able to at that time. So when we had a car, it was, I think it was the early 1930s before we finally got a car. When we went on buying trips to Birmingham to the wholesale district, it was a bus trip and a full day's involvement to go 40 miles because the roads were so bad. But eventually, Dad started a store. He was one of, I should say, there were 13 Jewish families in Jasper at that time, and all 13 had a clothing store. Incidentally, not a single clothing store with a Jewish name exists anymore in Jasper. It's gone the route of all the cities. The national brands are all that are there. But at the time I was born, 5 Jewish families got together and started a temple, built a temple, which existed until this past year, which 2005. The reason that it stopped existing was the young people are no longer there. The young people have moved to the larger cities, and the only Jewish families that are left there are in their 80s and 90s. So they reached a point where they had to let go of the temple, and the explanation there is, if I can put it in at this point, is the temple archives were turned over to the temple in Birmingham, who then took possession of the Jasper temple and put it up for sale. And the temple in Birmingham built an extra room on the temple called the Jasper Room, and all of the archives from the Jasper Temple are now in the Birmingham Temple. In growing up, I was the only Jewish boy in my age range. There was one 2 years older and one 1 year younger, but I was the only one my age range, and our house was 1 block from the store. It was one of those situations where if things got busy, Dad would go to the front of the store and yell, and one of us would respond by going to the store and helping out. And our house was a 8-bedroom house. It had 2 fireplaces and no furnace, no air conditioning. Mother did all the cooking and still went to the store every day to help out. And in those days, the things that were prepared were made from scratch. not like the boxed up things that we now purchase. Um, our house was on what is equivalent of half a city block, and we had acreage behind the house where Dad kept, always had one cow, and most of the time had two cows, which he did the milking on, and he never taught us or insisted on us milking the cow. That was his chore alone. And we had a garden that was equivalent of 1/4 of a city block, where we raised had corn and beans and dill and tomatoes. All of the things that we now use from the store, we raised ourselves. Garlic was another item that we raised, and Mother put up the own dill pickles with cucumbers, which we raised, and dill, which we raised. Growing up was routine to an extent, but we were only accepted so far. I was good friends with certain of the fellows in school. We'd do many things together, but when it came to social events, those of us of the Jewish faith were not invited. And we always were let know. These were not physical affronts, but it was not easy being Jewish in a small town like. I'd like to talk a little about my mother and father. They both came from the old country. My father in 1901, my mother in 1905, and my mother went to New York, stayed in New York because her brothers and sisters had preceded her. She was one of a family of 6, and actually came to this country when she did because a cousin who had the proper papers got sick and couldn't come, and Mother came in her stead. She went to work in the garment district, and her description of the difficulties there probably are well known because it was greatly written. How difficult that garment district was. It's been written up many times. My father came to, as I said earlier, came to Alabama because an uncle was there, and he went to New York only once, and that was to get my mother. Their marriage, as my understanding, was that the families knew each other in the old country, and so that his marriage to my mother was actually an arranged marriage. He brought her to Alabama, and she went back to visit New York quite a few times, but he never left Jasper. He never went to New York or went out of Alabama once he brought Mother home. And as I said earlier, everything was difficult because everything had to be made made by hand, made by, what am I trying to say? Made from scratch. We had help as growing up. Our favorite one was a lady named Margie, who participated in raising us, really, and we were very fond of her. Mother worked in the store every day, and we kids were expected to work in the store. My dad's usual statement was, at 3:30, I want you in the store. And most of the time we were. So we didn't have time for athletics or to try out for athletics, and probably wouldn't have been good enough to be on most teams or athletic team, but in any event, we were expected to be in the store. And our duties in the store were to be sure the merchandise was neat on the various tables or shelves, and to be sure that we had everything in stock that's necessary. So our form of inventory taking went on a full-time basis. We could not afford to carry large inventories, but when we would find something getting very low, we could order a small quantity to keep things up. And we had no system of pricing or recording on a cash register. We had a simple cash drawer at first, and then a cash register, but it was not recording amounts or totals, so that it was done on a lot of bartering was done in those days, the height of the Depression, and as such, we had lots of chickens, we had lots of ducks, and we always had one cow. We had laying hens and fryers, and one of my chores was to go to the hen house every day and get the freshly laid eggs. We had fresh milk at all times, and another of my chores was churning the buttermilk. So we manufactured our own butter. I used to hate that job because it was sitting there pounding the milk for what seemed like hours on end, but we did have fresh butter all the time. Mother would make biscuits from scratch, and hers were the best. Everything she made was for the best. I think, as we all know, they made their own gefilte fish. They would get what they call buffalo, which was a family of carp, but that buffalo was the favorite food for gefilte fish, and it was made from scratch. Matzo balls were my favorite, were the fluffy ones, and others in the family liked the hard ones, so Mother would make both. The only time that we had rabbis or truly religious services Jasper were the high holidays, and for many, many years, they would hire a rabbi or a student rabbi from Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati who would spend 10 days in Jasper and conduct the services. Otherwise, services were conducted by the Jasperites on Friday nights, and they had Sunday school every Sunday, which one of the locals taught. Mrs. Newmark was our teacher for many, many years. I was not bar mitzvahed, was only confirmed. So our religious training was not great, not by any means. We didn't learn Hebrew, and it was more of a social event than anything else. But we did religiously or have those Friday night services. They were standard, and we'd never do without, regardless of weather or conditions. Of the my brother Ben was the oldest son and was, as far as my mother and father were concerned, he was treated like a king because the eldest son syndrome, and when he would come for a visit, the red carpet was put out in every way. My brother Joe, who is the sweetest guy that ever lived, worked from the moment he could worked alongside mother and dad in the store, and he was the only one of the five of us that did not go to college. He stayed home so that the rest could go to college, and continued to work with my father until the last. My father had originally had a store in what was called Uptown Jasper, around the courthouse and the statuary that seems to be present in all southern towns around courthouses. But our store was across the street from the courthouse, and my father very daringly built a store on what was the outskirts of Jasper at the time. We didn't realize until much later just how daring he was for his time. And it was very successful. And under my brother's guidance and his brother-in-law, George Mitnick, it evolved into 125 stores. Joe continues to be wonderful in every way. He is so concerned for all of the family, and they're equally concerned for him. My sister Lil is in the same category as Joe. She's family oriented and has the family to deal with at all times, and she cares for their every need in every way. She has 3 daughters. Susan, Jan, and um, Barbara. And Barbara Hayworth is her youngest daughter and lives in San Diego with her husband and two children, Graham and Amanda. Her middle daughter has 5 children, and since I always get them mixed up, I won't name them this time. And Susan, the oldest daughter, is married and has 1 daughter. My sister Wileen has 2 daughters. Her husband George Mitnick has recently passed away. They had 60 years of marriage, and in Jasper. And their 2 daughters are Ronnie Hess and Karen Coons. Our house in Jasper was a tremendous place. We always joked that my father must have been planning to have quite a few more children, but mother apparently put a stop to that at 5. And in this house, the heat required a lot more than we were able to put into it. We had 2 fireplaces and 2 downstairs bedrooms, and in those 2 bedrooms, 1 closet. In the 6 bedrooms upstairs were 2 closets, and there was a bathroom upstairs, the bathroom downstairs. We were dependent a great deal on coal for heat and for baking and cooking, and the coal that is used there, which is under all of North Alabama, was bituminous coal, the soft coal that is very smoky. And one of my chores, along with my other brothers at that age, at certain ages, were to bring in, we'd have a pile of coal in the back of our acreage, and our job was bringing scuttles of buckets of coal as needed. So always the range in the kitchen had heat in it at all times, so that mother could start up the baking or cooking, and to keep heat in the fireplace. A lot of times what we would do as kids, we would get in front of the fireplace and warm ourselves up, turn around and get our rears warmed up, and then race to the bed, which had thick covers, thick quilts on them, and get underneath. That surprisingly, that area gets very cold. My brother Ben had 2 daughters, Jane and Ellen. Ellen lives in Birmingham, and Jane, along with her husband, lives in Miami. Jane had 2 sons, and I said my brother Joe had 2 children, Alan and Eileen. Alan lives in Birmingham, and Alan and his wife Lisa have 3 daughters. Eileen lives in Atlanta and is very busy with community activities. Our religious involvement involved going primarily on the high holidays, going to services conducted by a student rabbi or an actual professor of rabbinical school. And the services were primarily English, with reading some of the Hebrew, which was put down in English letters. And on Passover, we would have the standard Passover ritual, long hours, and it's then that mother usually would have a ducks or geese rather than chickens. And I don't know any significance of that, but it was part of the standard, and mother would make on Passover would make thymus and matzo ball soup from scratch, and often would have farfel available, none of which was fattening, of course, but it was a festive occasion. And she would move all of the chinaware and pots and pans out of the kitchen and clean the kitchen thoroughly, and then place specific Passover dishes or chinaware and pots that had been reserved strictly for Passover and put away the rest of the year. This is an early picture of my mother and father and Ben and Joe. This is me on the left, Willeen in front, and Lil on the right. This picture is taken in the side yard of our house in Jasper, Alabama. This is a picture of me with my first bike. I love this bike. I was so proud of it and so thrilled that the folks got it for me. Again, I'm not sure of the date this picture was taken. The picture on the left is Mal Cooper, who has since passed away. Next is Marvin Gilbert, who I understand is a physician in California. And the one on the right is me. I believe this is a confirmation picture. The date on the back says 1937. This is a picture of part of our scout troop. That's me on the upper right, second from the right. This is a picture of our immediate family, the Engels and the Greens. I don't know what occasion it was. This is a picture of me, Willeen, Joe, and Ben, taken on May 30th, 1939. That was probably my high school graduation picture. This is a picture of Dad Engel, taken in the side yard of our home in Jasper, Alabama. I have no idea what the date of that picture would be. This is a picture of Ben, Joe, and myself. Date unknown. This is a picture of Mother, Joe, and Lil taken in 1941. This is my high school graduation picture, 1939. You'll note I was a bit chubbier then.